So today I wanted to start out with a question for you. My question is, when you think of Colorado Springs, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Comment below. I'm actually really interested. Now on for today, we are going to bring you anything Colorado Springs for 2025 that seems awkward or ugly, or maybe it's just the plain truth. So stay tuned. You won't want to miss this video.
Today we're going to talk to you about 11 things. We're going to talk to you about the awesome, the awkward, and stay tuned to the very end. You're going to want to hear the ugly of Colorado Springs. If you're thinking of moving here, you need to know these things in 2025 when you're moving here. So right now we're going to start with the awkward things of living in Colorado Springs. Number one is the unpredictable weather. And Kaylee and I are going to go into this in a little bit more, but when you move to Colorado Springs, it's beautiful, it's sunny, weather is one of the things that we love about it, but it is unpredictable and it can be a little awkward when all of a sudden you don't know what to wear, you need to bring layers. It'll be sunny one minute, it'll be snowing the next minute, it'll be raining, and then it'll be 85. You just never know what you're gonna get. So that is the first thing that's awkward about living here in Colorado Springs.
All right, let's discuss the unpredictable weather. It is a little bit unpredictable. It's like the one thing people call or say about Colorado Springs a lot when they come visit is they're like, what's the weather supposed to be like in November? And like we'll post in our group and people will say, well, it could be 75 and sunny, or we could have, like 2 weeks ago, we had 24 inches of snow, which was really unusual.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Awkward too. Like, we live here and we're in it. I'm like, why did it was like bomb blizzard.
I know.
In October. Like, I don't even have my winter coats out yet. I don't have any gloves, and we're like, my husband literally went and bought a snowblower.
But in the same day as well, even in the summertime, you can have highs in the 90s. We don't really have humidity here, but highs in the 90s, and then at night you need a jacket
And cool off.
Yeah. Or in the middle of a kid's soccer game, you can go anywhere from wearing shorts and a t-shirt to wanting a full-on winter jacket.
And I guess maybe the awkward part of it sometimes is how you have to dress and look.
Yeah.
Because you have to be in layers. Like, I swear, kids' Halloween costumes, they can never do anything like, you have to like plan for a parka under it, because chances are you might have to put on a snow coat.
And I know that happens everywhere.
Easter too.
Yeah, I know that like the changing weather happens obviously everywhere. I think it's the frequency and it's how quickly it happens here. I think that comes over those mountains.
It comes and goes.
Mm-hmm. And you never know what you're going to get.
Even on the western slope, we were visiting my daughter over on the western slope, and I think I was used to, like, Colorado Springs, it comes, maybe it rains for even 20-30 minutes and then it goes away. The weather kind of held over the town we were in all day long. I was like, isn't this gonna burn off? Like, that's what it does here. And it doesn't over Colorado.
I don't care what time of year you're visiting or when you're living here, you need to know that our weather it's amazing, but it is unpredictable throughout the day. You can kind of see it sometimes building over that mountain. Like if I wake up and it'll be clear in the morning, typically, I would say, for the most part. And then you can kind of see it building up over those mountains throughout the day. And then it kind of just like pushes through. And that wind can be a little crazy as well. The wind is also unpredictable, I would say. So
number one, awkward point of Colorado Springs is the weather. So the second awkward thing about Colorado Springs would be, to me, is that sometimes, like, our little pieces of suburbia, like maybe you live in the northern part of Colorado Springs, maybe you live on the west side of Colorado Springs, but sometimes there's a little, what do you want to call it, like challenge, which area is better. People that are from, down in Banning Lewis might think that their area of town is the best. So I would say sometimes it's just a little bit of an awkward conversation when you're presenting where you're living from, or when you're putting your opinions out there with what side of town people live on. So I didn't really know how to explain it, but I thought this would be a good banter back and forth with Lori and I. But there is, I would say, people take pride in what part of town they live in.
And it's different.
And
like
different vibes.
Yeah, that's why you need a good real estate agent, because there are very different feels to different areas of town. Even yesterday, I was delivering like Christmas blankets to some of our clients, and Monument has a very different feel than Colorado Springs does. And sometimes you just need to find that fit. And what made me think about this point is when I was getting my hair done a while ago, my hairdresser was like, "Oh, I would never live over there." I'm like, "Really? Why?"
On the
She's
west
like,
side,
"Well, I don't want to
around-
be with all those suburbia moms or whatever." And so she was on the west side, and she's like, "I will never go north of what was it, Woodman." And she wanted District 11 school. She didn't want that suburbia feel, and the west side is very different. And so,
And even like your shopping, grocery shopping, stores nearby, it's different depending on what part of town you're in. Like over on the west side, they have more like little delis and individually owned coffee shops
Right.
and things like that versus suburbia, which is
Yeah.
kind of like northeast Colorado Springs, versus like if you want more laid back, like maybe a little bit of a country feel, you could be a little bit more south in Colorado Springs. So there's different vibes, and you find your tribe, and that's what Lori and I can
Yeah.
kind of help. Sometimes I feel like we ask a lot of questions when you're moving here, but that's really a part of it that we're hoping to get a feel for, like, what is your expectation? What kind of lifestyle do you want to live? There's lots of walking trails and pretty views throughout all of Colorado Springs, but sometimes it comes down to what amenities are nearby, or what do you despise? You don't want to be part of a group that acts a certain, I don't know, but we'll help give you that awkward truth in an awkward conversation sometimes.
Yeah. So that is the number 2 awkward thing, is sometimes you get west side versus north side, or suburbia versus
Anti-suburbia.
anti-suburbia.
Our last awkward point is the altitude. So you might be thinking, well, Lori, why is that an awkward thing about Colorado Springs? So we're sitting here at about 7,000 almost feet above sea level. And when you come here for the first time, a lot of times we're showing houses and you might be walking upstairs a lot of times and you might be getting out of breath. It's a little awkward when you get here. You're like, no, I promise I'm in shape a little bit. I like to work out. I'm not this out of shape. When you come here, I don't care what your fitness level is, you will get out of breath when you are just walking around because you are so high in altitude here in Colorado Springs.
So I think, Lori, you were walking up a hill when you introduced this one,
And-
but it is awkward, and it's awkward because when we are showing houses, like you said, you'll run out of breath. I am a Colorado native. I've lived here forever. I wouldn't say I'm super athletic, but I'm active, and I still get so out of breath doing
I
certain
think
things.
it's awkward when we have a lot of clients who sometimes, you come in here or you come into town and you maybe see houses, but like, so after this, I'm going to go show 2 houses. Someone who's here last weekend, they didn't find the right one. One popped up this weekend. I'm going to go film it. And I've lived here for 24 years, which I dated myself, but I also find myself when I'm videoing sometimes
breath.
going up those stairs, and I'm like, and then
I
here's
do that
the
all the
primary,
time.
and I'm like, okay, just stop and recording. They're gonna wonder why I'm so out of breath.
Or sometimes I think because it is maybe a little bit harder to breathe, which is good if you're an extreme athlete, an ultimate athlete. It's great for training. We're the Olympic city. But with that being said, like the heavy breathing, but sometimes I find myself like, and I'm like, am I breathing heavy, James? And he's like, maybe a little.
Maybe a
I'm
little
like,
bit.
oh.
I mean, not to scare you. I mean, I never notice it really in the everyday life. But the good thing is, if you go running here, you work out here, and then you go to another state or
Like,
somewhere else, you
oh
feel
yeah,
like you're
it's
just like super
amazing.
powerful.
Well, and with that being said,
badass.
watch out when you come up here on vacation. Don't have too many drinks. That could be really awkward because they hit a little bit harder here too.
So,
And so don't find yourself in a super awkward situation being at high altitude, and just know that it's somewhat normal even when you live here.
we'll bring you some water when we're looking at houses.
So now we are moving on to the awesome points that Colorado Springs has to offer in 2025. So I think one of the most awesome things about Colorado Springs, and probably some of the most in your face aspects of moving to Colorado Springs, is all of the outdoor adventure right at your fingertips.
we're on to the awesome points, which I always kind of script out like our points of our videos sometimes. And the awesome piece of it, I'm like, I could go on for a while about awesome points of Colorado
We could
Springs.
have a whole video about this.
We could have awesomeness.
I think we probably do.
Of Colorado Springs. But this one, like Kaylee noted, was outdoor adventure. I like how you came from around the tree. Was that like your outdoor adventure move? That was really
And
nice.
that was right in the middle of suburbia. So there are so many things within days driving for outdoor. I mean, I think we could check so many boxes if you are looking at a list of outdoor activities that you can do from Colorado Springs in a day. You could check so many things. Anywhere from, of course, hiking, biking, rucking, trail running.
What's rucking?
Where you wear those heavy vests and they like train and run and walk and whatnot.
Oh,
You
I've
could
done
do
rucking.
fly fishing, river fishing, pond fishing, kayaking, paddle boarding. Then you can go on to like snow sports. You could go, the one thing that my husband and I, he was wanting to maybe look at getting snowmobiles this next winter, but I was like, really? I don't know if I say that's a day trip.
You don't
I
think
almost
so?
think you need like an overnight, because like you could drive to Granby, but I don't like immediate right here. We don't get that.
We always
much
call them
snow.
weekend warriors. There's a lot of like
But
weekend
it's weekend
trips.
warriors. So
Mhm.
then the
For a day
snow,
or two.
that's what I mean. You can go skiing, but it's a 4:30 a.m. get up, go,
My brother does it all the time with his
ski.
kids.
and then be home by 8. So you can do it, but I guess I'm just maybe a little lazy.
He's a little nuts. But yeah, no, but outdoor adventure is probably one of the main reasons I think a lot of our clients live or come here. As well as the
Active
other points,
lifestyle.
but the active lifestyle, not only for themselves, but with their family. They're always, some of our clients are, I'm like, where are they now? What are they doing now? I think they move here and they get so excited to do everything. They're downtown at soccer games.
Hiking for teeners, golfing, and even our club sports in Colorado Springs, because you can move to the mountains in Colorado and get a lot of those things. But we also have like the more suburban like club sports as well that compete really well when it in our entire state.
Yeah, and we do a whole 9-page guide. We have a Colorado Springs What's Going On Facebook group with like 48,000, and we do a guide every week about. I'm always astonished at how much stuff is going on
All
here
the time.
And like this weekend, I'm going to the Castle Rock starlighting thing tomorrow. They have like a trolley that goes through. We have an ice skating rink downtown. We have the ice sculptures. Where are they? In Cripple Creek?
Cripple Creek did start hosting them. They're amazing. That's an easy day trip. You go gambling. You can do cooking classes. You can do, we have the art center downtown. There are so many things above and beyond just outdoor adventure, but I thought focusing on outdoor adventure is a huge reason why a lot of people choose Colorado Springs.
So obviously we can go on for outdoor adventure for a while about it, but as you can see,
it makes it awesome.
But it makes it awesome.
One of my favorite points, and I had to cover this one, why Colorado Springs is awesome is because of those views. Again, I look at them all the time. I've been here now for 22 years, maybe 24, and I absolutely love those views. It never gets old, I promise you. You're in different parts of the city and the mountains just look different. You come in from Denver, you drive down to Colorado Springs, and all of a sudden those mountains are in your faces. So the second awesome point of Colorado Springs is those mountains and views.
This really is one of my favorite. I know I keep saying that, but it's the main reason why I love Colorado Springs, besides a few other points. But it's the view. My house does have a view, and I absolutely love it. I sit out there with coffee, and a lot of our clients maybe don't care quite as much if they have a view from their house or it's not quite like in their backyard. But you can go for a walk, as you can just see where Kaylee and I are just here at a park off of Research in Wolf Ranch, and you see a view. The mountains kind of overlook where we are right now. That view is everywhere.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Even if I'm not outside enjoying it, like even we were coming up over, you know, when you're on Woodman and you head down the road, and like you see the whole mountain in front of you. You can see Garden of the Gods Park, like those red rocks there. But the views, even when you're running errands, like you just feel so blessed and lucky to be able to look up. And it is kind of a different view throughout the year because sometimes it'll have snow on the peak and sometimes the lighting on it will be different. It's beautiful no matter what season, and it just makes me very thankful that this is what we get to see and grow up and experience every single day.
Yeah, and there's a difference when you're in Denver. But the mountains are further away. I don't know if I could ever live in Denver. I'm trying to think. I'm sure I could.
Maybe
I like a big city.
Golden or something close, but then
But I'm so used to
very
seeing the mountains, and
expensive.
you can see like the classic like outline of the mountains. You know, if you look at pictures of Google Denver, but in the suburbs or wherever you're living, they're far away. I feel, and here in Colorado Springs, it's like right in your face.
Well, and we have the mountain, America's mountain. We have Pikes Peak, like, and that's the thing. Like when people they'll ask, which one's Pikes Peak, which one's NORAD,
Yeah.
which one, because we have it's like very distinct peaks that you can see and know where you're at. We have Blodgett's Peak, and you can see the mountains, and I can point them out. I have to say, even growing up in the middle of like ski areas and mountains, I was always like, what bowl, what mountaintop? Like they aren't as distinct as they are in Colorado Springs.
Pikes Peak is pretty awesome. So that is an awesome point of Colorado Springs.
So on to our third awesome point of what Colorado Springs has to offer, and it's great schools. We have many different school options and a lot of different school districts in Colorado Springs. And I will say 90% of all of our schools and school districts rank very high as far as different websites go. And they have so much to offer. There's so many different types of schools. If you're looking at public education, we even have school of choice, we have charter schools, we have private schools. And so Lori and I used to work in them. I think this is a good conversation for her and I to go back and forth with. So when I introduced this, I noted that Lori and I did work in schools. Lori worked in several different school districts here in Colorado Springs. Her husband also works for school districts, so I think we're really good at answering this.
Yeah. A lot of our clients do have kiddos when they come into town, and like that's the major point of moving your kids here. One of the biggest angst, I would say, of moving your kids here is, you know, transitioning schools. What's the best schools? We get that all the time. What's the best middle school? Can I choice my kids in? What neighborhoods go with those schools?
Or the other part to that is we're coming from a private school over here. What would be most like it over here?
Yep.
We're coming from somewhere where volleyball is a big deal. What's a good place over here that would be equivalent? And Lori and I can answer those questions for you. I think we have enough experience, not only personally, but we have a lot of past clients and friends throughout Colorado Springs that are in different areas, and we know their experiences not only from just our perspective.
And I would say of all of our clients, I don't know of anyone who said, oh, my kids didn't like the school. Of course, there's transition things. Of course, there's pros and cons to different schools. But for the most part, I would say our clients have loved the schools here. And if you look at niche.com, you know, we have great rated schools
and greatschools.com
throughout the whole state. So you have like Cheyenne Mountain, District 12 is a smaller district down south. And then you have, of course, District 20, which ranks up there.
District
and 38, which is in Monument.
And it's a smaller district, too.
Yeah. So great schools here in Colorado. I think you'd have a wide variety to choose from. And all of our clients are a little bit different on what they're looking for. And we can help you guys navigate that.
And we have a lot of people and conversations with maybe kiddos that have specific needs. And so we can help point you in right directions for resources and groups or people to ask specific questions to. So schools is definitely one of our awesome points of living and moving in Colorado Springs.
So our last, fourth awesomeness sauce point, awesome sauce, that's not what kids say sometimes, awesome sauce, anyways, is the sun. Here in Colorado Springs, it's one of my favorite things. I know I said the mountains and views before, but there is sun here. If we have 2 days full of like clouds or rain, which we hardly ever have, it gets kind of depressing for me. We're not used to it here. When the sun is out, it is out almost 300 days a year, and it just feels that warm. Right now we're in November, and I'm out here in short sleeves, and it's totally fine. So the sun is a major awesome point up here in Colorado Springs.
My last awesome point, I had to limit myself, I told you, is the sun. I do think the sun here in Colorado Springs is also one of the reasons I didn't know why I didn't know that was a major reason why I love living here until I really thought about it. But in travel other places, we have a lot of sun here, like 300 days. And if it goes 2 days in a row with like when we just had that snowstorm, I started like freaking out a little bit.
That's what I actually was just going to bring that up because it was actually gloomy for 2-3 days in a row. And by the end, I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, we are so used to that vitamin D from the sun and like the crisp air and the sun. It just does something for you. And I don't know anybody that doesn't love the sun.
No, it's a pretty intense sun, I would say. It's because we're so
True.
high in altitude. So you can feel it even in the wintertime when it's like 30 degrees out. It feels warm. But a typical weather pattern here in Colorado Springs, I would say most days you wake up and it's clear. And then maybe you can see as we were shooting some of these videos, what time is it? Like almost noonish before we have to run and do some things. But the clouds start to come over the mountains, and then it gets maybe sometimes a little bit cloudier towards the end of the day sometimes. But that's pretty standard, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So we do have time change here. That's kind of kicking my butt right now because we do participate in time change. Like, it is getting dark at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. And that kind of gets to me just a little bit. But then the pro to that is it makes me want to, what?
You should put a Christmas tree. Then you have the lights on that gets dark and it's cozy. And
I just will get up earlier to experience my sun and have my coffee. No, I will be putting up my Christmas tree. It does help. Lori is right.
I'm right, always. So, but the sun is, if you know, we have clients who move from, I don't know, some of the Midwest or the Oregon, Seattle area, and that's the one thing they comment on is the sun.
Or people that move here from California and they're like, we love California. It's just either this, or this why we're moving. I would say the amount of sun that we get is very comparable to California. It is just that we are higher up, and so it's a different kind of sun. It's more intense, and it does produce a lot of heat.
But we don't have that humidity. Like if you're coming from Texas, the Midwest, there's not that humidity that goes along with, like, I don't know, the sun. I know that's kind of silly, but we don't have the humidity, so it just is that dry heat.
It's a little different.
It's a little different. So one of the awesome pieces of Colorado Springs is the sun. But now we're going to get to the ugly.
So stay tuned. So now we are on to the ugly. So we're talking in the year 2025, and I feel like this... Huh?
You're really cute, though.
Oh, well, thanks. I was like, what? Do you need me to redo that? No, so the ugly part, and we're trying to do this, with 2025 coming right on our coattails of this video, so something new, but seems like this is always the conversation and always the way that the housing trends, but there is a lot of economic disparity. I wouldn't say a lot. There are areas of economic disparity in Colorado Springs. So there's definitely areas that are very manicured and great schools, but you're going to pay for it. Home prices, start maybe in the $700,000-800,000 in some areas when you get maybe like Research and north of there. But if you go to other areas of Colorado Springs, there are areas that are unmanicured and unkept and different. Was that my son? No, well, it might be my son. But there are areas that are not as beautiful. When you're talking, our average home price here in Colorado Springs is over $500,000. There are areas of town that tend to struggle a little bit more, and so therefore there is economic disparity in Colorado Springs. So now on to the uglies.
The economic disparity. It is true, though. I
was like, what are you talking about with this? But then as you talked about it, I was like, oh, that's truth, and it's
the truth.
Ugly.
There is some, like, when you go to, like, the Broadmoor, we take clients to Broadmoor Bluffs, you drive through one of the poorest sections of Colorado Springs to get to one of the richest sections of Colorado Springs, and you drive through, like, the homelessness and some of that stuff that goes along with that. But then you also, like, I was driving home, I took Academy from the south, and it just is, I don't know, it's like a yin and yang to me. It was like just so different, just coming up from that part of town to the other part of town. There is just economic disparity. I know that
And
happens
there's like,
with
it's
every
like pockets throughout the city, because I could think of a couple neighborhoods that have that feel, even kind of more up north, because, and sometimes it is like because there's no HOA in place or whatnot, but sometimes everything is not as manicured and in place and whatnot, and so it makes it feel, I mean, sometimes there is junk laying in your neighbor's driveway, and it, with that being said, our housing prices are pretty high for even our average priced home. I think, what are we at, like over 530,000?
like upper fours to like lower fives, depending upon
But
when
that,
you look at it,
I mean,
how you look at it.
We aren't in a cheap state to live.
Yeah, which makes it hard if you don't have a higher income to afford housing here, and that's like something our city's been working on. And how does that come into play?
There's a
and
big
all the
push
politics
for
of that.
affordable housing, but affordable housing is still high.
Yeah. So economic disparity, we'll leave it at that, but it is one of the ugly truths, and we're trying to be honest with you about living here in Colorado Springs.
Our second ugly truth about living here in Colorado Springs is, because of all those awesome points we just talked about, is we are a rapidly growing city. Our population is increasing, sometimes faster than we anticipate or maybe desire. And with that comes the ugly truth of our infrastructure. We're having a hard time keeping up with roads and the construction of those roads and what that looks like. So we have a lot to discuss on that, so let's go.
Let's talk about infrastructure. I did walk across the street. That was the infrastructure. If you did notice that, I had to do that 3 times.
So I will say, I feel like our city keeps up in some ways with this, but it's hard at the pace that our city is growing. We've just had so many people move here, I would say over the last 5 years, that like, I was thinking back, my husband and I were just talking about this the other day, like when we worked up at the schools, and I would leave and go down Powers, and before Research was an overpass, it was like,
it's that backed up forever. Yep.
And my 10, 15 minute commute, or actually it was like 15, 20 minute commute, sometimes it would be like 45 minutes, just because it was like a stoplight that you had to wait to cycle, wait to cycle, wait to cycle. And so the city has done some of those things, but it just takes time. I know they're working some down on South Powers now, over by Galley, but just some of those major, like we have Powers,
like a loop.
we have
our only
I-25.
main road is I-25.
Yeah, and Powers, and that's the thing. I think that it just takes a while, and it takes money for infrastructure to be able to really keep up with the amount of people. Even if we're talking like this neighborhood, Lori, over on Black Forest Road, like they're widening. It used to be just a 2-way road, and now they're making it 4 lanes, and then they're adding in some lights and whatnot. But
we just passed a measure to increase our budget for some of that stuff, which I think was good. I voted for that because I'm like, I can't do these roads anymore sometimes, so keep building those roads. But it's the pro and con. I think it depends on where you're moving here from too. Some people
it's
move
not
here.
Awful. That's what I was going to say.
Some people move here and they're like, this is not bad. Like, and a lot of people say, I want to be within 30 minutes of my work. That's what we get that a lot. And you can really live a lot of places in Colorado Springs and get there in 30 minutes. Yeah, for the most part.
So we are kind of spoiled. So I think our perspective is a little bit more tedious than a lot of other areas, but when we've been here for so long, I think that's where we're speaking from, is that, we can see the areas that need help were with the growth in certain areas.
With the growth, that part worries me. We got to keep up with it, or we're going to become like sometimes going to Denver when you're like just stopped in some of those. So anyways,
that is bad.
As long as we keep up with it, I think it'll be fine. But it is kind of the ugly truth of Colorado Springs is we need to keep up.
So we have 2 more ugly truths. Stay with us. The last one
is something
we'll break it easy. So we are talking ugly points about moving to Colorado Springs. One thing that I think is very hard for people to wrap their head around, and that Lori and I have talked about, is land. Not only is land very expensive when you're moving really anywhere into our state, but the land use is also very limited with what you can do and different regulations and restrictions with that land. And so with that being said, Lori and I have a lot of discussing to do for you all about land. So let's go.
Okay, I
So
had to open the door.
our
It's getting hot in
third
here.
ugly truth about Colorado, and I'm glad we put this one in here because I feel like this has been
A
a
long-going
dilemma
conversation with
from
people.
for many years, and it still is a conversation we have to have with pretty much everyone moving
He was
here.
like, I want land, and I want, a couple acres, and I want a newer home, and I want it to be, my budget's $500,000.
Not ever gonna happen.
Not happening. And it's like,
Even if you say your budget's $1 million,
it still gets a little tricky. I mean, it just depends upon what you want as far as land goes.
well, and with that being said, like you can get a nice home on a nice like
Parcel.
neighborhood lot, but when you're talking acreages or even half an acre and whatnot, like bring the checkbook.
Yeah.
It's very expensive. And then with that being said, we've had some people say, well, I just want to buy the land. And I know I was talking about like rules and regulations and what you can and can't do with your land. We've had a lot of people say, well, we just want to buy the land and we'll just like live in our RV while we build a house, even if it takes a couple of years. You can't do that. There is a lot of regulations that either the city or the county put in place, and I don't know of anywhere, even in Fluorescent Divide, Cripple Creek, that you can do that.
Well, even I think when people think that they're going to get a piece of land and they're going to build on it, a lot of builders are custom builders and they only build a certain caliber of home. And so by the time you're putting in like septic and well and some of that stuff on that land, you're talking 1.5 million plus.
That's pretty much the budget.
Yeah. And so there are homes with some land. Like let's say you wanted an acre of land and you wanted a newer home. You are talking $1 million plus. There are some like $700,000-$800,000 homes, but you're going to need to put in some work to get some of those homes brought up to maybe what your expectations are.
Yes.
Like
so
some of those ones in Monument.
land, no matter what, and even if you don't have that vision of acreage, but you're like, we just want a really nice sized backyard, that's still going to cost you here in Colorado Springs.
Our land is expensive, and
Our
so
land's expensive.
just rip off that Band-Aid. But give us a call. Let's talk about your expectations and what you're looking for, and we can help navigate that.
That's a good point to end on. Is sometimes that's the expectation we talk about, and then as we start to see homes and whatnot, really, to me, I help read between the lines, and Lori does too, but sometimes it's more about that privacy factor.
Yeah.
And you can get privacy and you can get views and whatnot.
Just how the house is situated.
It
I would say my house is kind of like
depends.
that. I don't have a huge yard, but I have a view of the mountains, and I like the houses behind me are like down, like they're kind of like
So
these
you have
townhomes. So I
privacy,
only
too.
see their roofs, and so I mean, I guess I planted some trees on the side of me, but it kind of depends upon that lot and how that house is situated. So we can help you
We
navigate
can help
that.
with that.
We can help. So the last ugly point here that Humpty and I have been talking about, and actually a fun little fact about Humpty Dumpty is Colorado Springs has how many do you think, Kayleen? Like 11?
I think there's like 8 or 11, something like that.
Between 8 and 11 we're going to go with.
Yeah.
Humpties throughout Colorado Springs. So it's kind of a fun little like scavenger hunt, I would say. Like sometimes kids like to go find them. They're downtown. There's one here at the park. So I don't know how it got started, to be honest, but we have a bunch of Humpty Dumpties all over our city. But we were talking about home pricing, and that is an ugly truth about Colorado Springs. Our average home price is a little bit more than other places, I would say, depending upon where you're coming from. And the reality, what that looks like, I will say our clients kind of go through a grieving process, I call it, when they first come here and start house hunting with us, of what they can get for their budget. So Kaylee and I are going to kind of talk about that a little bit and give you the ugly truth about housing pricing here in Colorado Springs. Last but not least, we have to talk about housing prices. Humpty Dumpty and I matched. Did you see how we were matching today? You noticed that?
I did notice that.
I told him, I'm like, hey, Humpty Dumpty, what are you wearing today?
He's like,
Anyways.
I'll wear red, you wear red too.
I'll wear your Christmas sweater. But housing prices is the ugly truth of Colorado Springs. And I talk about the grieving process that our clients go through. I think first they come and they're just in denial. They're like, no, this isn't. Then they get a little bit sad about it and angry. Eventually we get to acceptance. Eventually we get there and we find the perfect home here in Colorado Springs, but it is the ugly truth.
You have to like kind of just feel your way through it, because people are moving here usually for jobs or lifestyles or whatnot. It's not like they fall in love. Like sometimes I'll see different agents in different areas of the country, and they'll post like a super extravagant like plantation style house or something right on the water or something. I would say more people fall in love with the city, the lifestyle, what Colorado Springs has to offer, and then we go house hunting. And during that house hunting process, I mean, we have relatively new homes. Like you can see homes 99s, 2000s, early 2000s, but then when you walk through it and you're spending $700,000, people are like, I still have to like refinish floors, and I still have to. Yes.
Yeah, I would say.
I mean, it depends on the area that you're in. There are, like, we found our client that's coming and actually moving here on Sunday.
I was just going to talk about that.
They found a great home under $500,000. It's just their expectation was very different than, I would say, a lot of people that we talked to.
Yeah, they had a pretty realistic expectation of what our market is like. And it is a kind of a different market right now. We went from such a seller's market to now we're kind of in a buyer's market, I would say, unless the home
and
is
pretty even.
Updated, good views, and priced well, it'll go in a weekend. But housing prices is something, it's an ugly truth of Colorado Springs. We have a higher than average housing price in most places in the U.S., and it's because of the awesomeness of Colorado Springs.
Yes.
But along with
It's
that
true.
comes the ugly truth of the housing pricing, and we can kind of help navigate that for you, along with everything else. And the move is working through that and what that is. It's a great conversation to have when we first hop on that conversation, that phone call. I would
Yes.
say.
So Lori and I, we hope that this video was very informative. We tried to gear it a little bit more towards 2025. But if you're thinking of making that move anytime, text, give us a call. It's Lori and I who answer the phone. We love helping you guys make that move. So if you're thinking Colorado Springs could be the place for you, make sure and reach out to us. We love to help you guys.